What's up guys, welcome to Rob's house. Today we're doing another Corvette mod. I have here in this box an MGW short throw shifter for my car. So I'm going to show you guys how to install this today, fresh out of the box. I haven't touched any of this stuff yet. Oh yeah. We got everything we need right here. I'm just gonna jump right into it, show you guys how to install this. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the center console apart. We're gonna take all that off to expose the shifter. We're gonna remove that shifter and connect this MGW shifter to the shift linkage inside. I'm gonna be doing a combination of using the GoPro that I'm using right now, and I also have another camera set up over there so that you guys can kind of see what I'm doing, so we can do some time lapses and you can see me disassemble and reassemble everything. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do in order to do that is we're going to take this shift knob off. So once we loosen up everything, we can just sort of slide this right off. So removing the shift knob is pretty simple. We're basically going to twist and pull down on this boot retainer. That'll expose a T20 torque screw underneath this, which we can then loosen and pop this shift knob off. All right, guys, so this was being a little bit stubborn, but basically if you look at this boot retainer, there are two flat spots on either side. You can see this one right here. And all I did was I just peeled the boot back just a little bit just to expose this metal. And then I used a spanner wrench and just kind of, you know, just rotated it a little bit counterclockwise just to break it loose. Then we can pull it down. You can see right here we have our T20 torque screw. I'm going to unscrew that, pull the shifter off. At which point I'm going to then disassemble the whole center console. So I'm also going to keep the car in neutral as I do this. So we're going to have to take the center console cover off. We're going to pop all the clips of this side piece off. That's easy. We're going to pop the clips that release this whole console. There's some plugs underneath here that we have to disconnect for things like the parking brake selector, the driving mode selector, the cigarette lighter, which I don't even know why they still put these in cars anymore. And once we have all that out, I'll come back and show you what we're dealing with as it relates to the shift boot here. So let me get started on that and I'll be right back.
So cliche, I see the sparks you throw my way. I know your name is written on everyone's mind.
All right guys, check it out. So we got the center console completely removed. It's more than just removing that top piece like we had to do when we replaced the screen and the dash. We actually have to replace the lower part as well. Not too difficult, just gotta kind of unplug all the wires that are underneath there that go to your USB and cigarette lighter inside of the actual center console, like where you would put your phone. And then there's a bunch of these posts here that have some 10 mils on them. There are two more 10 mils that go in here, and the whole thing pretty much just lifts right out. So just kind of remember, you know, where you disconnected everything. I am going to get this shift boot off, and then I can show you how to replace it with the MGW one. I'll be right back. All right guys, so I just pulled that rubber boot off. I forgot there's more screws under here. I'm just gonna remove those real quick, pull this cover off, and then I'll show you what we're working with. All right guys, so check it out. It's pretty easy to remove all this actually. First thing we're gonna do is, these are also 10s, so we're gonna take those 4 10s off. These are all T40 torques, so we're gonna remove all 3 of them, and then we should be able to lift the whole shifting assembly. So this top piece will allow us to actually remove the stick. And then when we remove these 3 T40 screws, sorry, there's another, I was pointing, but there's another one here. We can remove this whole shifting mechanism. This is the shift linkage back here. And then we'll move over to my workbench and I'll show you guys how the MGW one works.
Don't even try.
right, guys, we got everything out. Here's our shift linkage right here that we'll connect everything back to. We're gonna move over to the bench now, and I'll show you how to install the MGW shifter. First of all, how to assemble it out of the box, and then how we're gonna install it in the car. So I'll be right back. All right, guys, check it out. We're over here on the workbench. So here is our stock shifting mechanism. Here is what we're going to install it into. We're actually gonna have to take this apart. We're gonna take this gold piece off, allow us to get these bushings out. Then we're gonna kind of, you know, remove the shift mechanism, because we're gonna reuse the shift mechanism. We're just gonna take these two Phillips head screws out, and that'll slide right out. And then basically what we do is we put, you know, one on each end from the aftermarket unit, and then it'll sit like this in the car. So I'm just gonna keep the same orientation. This is an anti-vibration pad that we put in between the actual shifter assembly on top of this bracket. I don't know what else you would call this. This is an alignment tool, so this is actually going to sit. We're going to screw this in into these holes here, and what that's going to do is the bottom of this is going to sit inside of the shift mechanism when we actually go to reconnect it to the shift linkage, to make sure that it aligns properly, so that neutral is actually centered and we can get, you know, to all of our gears. We're going to reuse these T40 screws. I actually went out today and bought blue Loctite, but they supply thread lockers, so shout out to MGW. That's awesome. We also got this Dynamat. We're gonna cut that in half and put that. Actually, got a spare sheet just in case, but I don't think I'm gonna need it. That needs to wrap around the torque tube basically. So it's gonna, we're gonna cut it in half. We're gonna put one piece here and then another piece kind of cupping it on the bottom, and then we're gonna line that whole opening with these foam pads. And I'd imagine that they do this just to keep anything from moving around or clanking, making a whole bunch of noise. The stock shifting assembly doesn't really move around or make a lot of noise, but and I mean, they're bolted in pretty good with these torque screws, but I guess it's just like extra security. I mean, I don't blame them there. They provided this T-handle for installing our Allen screws when we actually bolt the shifter onto the bracket. Yeah, so pretty self-explanatory. And then when all's said and done, actually this is reversed just because that's how they package it. But we're going to take this washer off, and then these two washers, the washer and crush washer, are actually going to go on the bottom of it, and we're going to install that into this threaded hole here, and that's what our factory shift knob is going to reattach to. So I elected to keep my factory shift knob. I'm not too crazy on how the MGW makes one that has an aftermarket ball style shifter, but it's got like an exposed portion of the rod that I am not too crazy about. I kind of like my shift boot covering everything. So and you know, my stock shifter obviously matches all the other Alcantara and suede on my interior, so I elected to keep that. I don't have a problem with the knob. It's just the throw that I didn't like. This ball comes pre-greased. That's awesome. These bushings come pre-greased. That's awesome. So literally all we got to do here is take these screws out. Take these screws out here, pull the shift assembly out. We clean it off completely. We're going to take all the grease off of it with a paper towel because these bushings are pre-greased. I'm just going to uninstall this so I can put the shift linkage in, and then we'll actually install it in the car. So I'll come back when I get to that stage, and I'll walk you through step by step the installation of the bracket, aligning the shifting mechanism before we actually tighten down all of our T40 torque screws, the installation of the shifter itself. You know, actually before we do any of that, sorry, I'll walk you through lining the Dynamat stuff and whatever. I'm just going to get this transferred over first, and then we'll go over how the reinstallation procedure. We also have to cut that rubber boot that I removed. We have to cut a hole out of the inner center ring inside of the boot, and we basically have to cut that out because it's not going to fit around this shifter. So you know, pretty simple, but just some minor modifications that need to be done. So let me transfer this guy over real quick, and I'll show you what this guy looks like when it's done. We'll do the Dynamat, we'll do the rubber stuff, and then we'll get cracking on this reinstall. Shouldn't be much longer. This is pretty straightforward. All right, guys, got the shifter assembly transferred over to our new MGW short throw unit, and I'm going to begin the reinstallation process. So let's take this Dynamat and this foam shielding here and get over to the car and put this in. We can begin reinstallation. All right, guys, so I don't know how well I'm going to be able to actually show this, but basically we're going to put a piece of Dynamat here and then another piece of Dynamat underneath, kind of cupping this torque tube. There's actually already some heat shielding in there, but this will provide some additional heat shielding. And then you can kind of see there's already some kind of like foam in here, so this extra foam that we have is just going to help line that even more so that everything fits in here nice and tight. So I will I'm going to need both hands, and I don't think my other camera is going to have a good enough angle. So I think I'm just I'll put the Dynamat in, I'll come back, then I'll put the foam in, and I'll come back. I'll just show you what it looks like. All right, guys, so the Dynamat's supposed to cup this torque tube. So for this top piece, I actually shaved a little strip off so that it would fit. And then the bottom piece, there's can't really see it, but there's two kind of like cables under here, so I had to tuck it in between that and the torque tube. But that looks good. Now I'm gonna put the foam inserts in. So one of them goes along this side here, and we want to kind of keep it, you know, toward the top here. And then the other one's gonna go in. I'm doing this for the sake of me only using one hand right now, but the other one's gonna go kind of down like this, right? And then we have this little T-shaped piece here. Look at that. So that's gonna go in there, and then we can begin the reinstallation process of the actual MGW shifter. So let me get these foam pieces in, I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll start putting the shifter in. All right, so we got all that foam in there now. We can start reinstalling the shifter. This will just keep everything nice and tight, I think. All right, guys, so I put the shift assembly in here. It's gonna be pretty simple now. We put the alignment piece in here, so this actually sits in the shifter itself. Put these two screws in there temporarily. Once you've done that, you know that it's aligned properly, so it's spaced properly going into the shift linkage. At this point, we can torque down these T40s, also the one for the shift linkage. I did put blue Loctite on them. There's MGW supplies you with thread locker, so I'm just going to put that on the last screw, torque it in there, and then we'll move on to the next step. It is worth noting they tell you to use a T-bar to remove and to install these T40 torque spits. I don't have one for a T40. I just have my socket wrench, so I'm just going to be careful not to over torque this. I'm just going to kind of, you know, snug it and then give it a little extra, maybe a quarter turn or something. All right, now that that's all torqued down, we don't need our alignment tool anymore. Let's go back over to the bench. We'll modify the shift boot, and then we'll install the shifter. All right, so we got to modify this boot here, and basically what we're doing is we're cutting this big inner lip off. So see how there's like there's one lip, and then there's an inner sort of smaller lip. So if we basically just cut along this line in here, that will remove the piece that we need to remove. The reason being is that when we reinstall this shifter and we go to put this boot over the shifter, this boot is too narrow to fit over the boot that's already on this shifter, but by widening it so that we only have the outer ring, we'll actually be able to pull it over the shifter and it'll fit nice and snug. So I'm just gonna do that real quick, I'll be right back. All right, we got that inner ring of the boot cut out, so that is now modified appropriately. Super easy if you have any kind of straight razor. I used these guys that I use for trimming vinyl when I'm wrapping stuff. Really easy, cut right through it. It's just a rubber boot, not a big deal. All right, let's get this shifter into the car. So just a quick review, we're gonna use this anti-vibration pad and kind of jam it in between that. These are the provided screws to bolt down. We're gonna use this T-bar to actually install them. And then actually pretty cool, the shifter has these other Allen screws on both sides, and they give you an Allen wrench here with the screws to tighten it. That's actually sort of a secondary mounting mechanism that gives you a little bit of redundancy in there, so that, you know, just a little bit of an assurance that nothing's gonna be moving around or be floppy or anything like that. So let's get over to the car. All right, guys, really quickly, I forgot to mention when we were on the bench, this has a pre-greased ball that goes into the shift assembly. So we're just gonna, you know, take this bag off, basically insert it into the shift assembly, and then we're gonna install these 4 screws, and then we're gonna tighten the 4 lock nuts with this provided Allen wrench. These screws do have some thread locker on them, but I have plenty of this blue Loctite left, so I think I'm gonna put some Loctite on all these just in case. All right, guys, the shifter is installed. Everything's nice and tight. I'm going to put the boot back on now, which is just held on by 4 of these 10 mils. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this one-handed because I have to pull the boot over top of this. So let me bolt this on, and then I'll show you how the actual stick that the shifter will connect to gets installed. So be right back. All right, we got the boot reinstalled. As you can see, the inner ring that we cut out lines up nicely with the MGW shifter. And now we're gonna put the actual stick on. So tripod my camera real quick. All right, so actually this is on backwards to the way it's supposed to be on. So this is actually your lock nut. Thread this on, and then basically you have your crush washer and then your flat washer that sort of prevents you from scratching this guy up. And we're just gonna thread this in pretty much as far as we can. The hole here doesn't matter which one, I don't think. It needs to be facing left and right, because that's how the actual stick mounts. Okay, so let's see if with my hand I cannot get another full turn, so I'm gonna back that out just a little bit. All right. And now that this is facing to the left, I'm going to tighten this lock nut, which basically is just going to collapse this crush washer the rest of the way. That looks good. See how she feels now. Oh. Wow. That feels way different. Let me grab the knob. All right, so I just grabbed our factory shift knob. I just wanted to get a feel for this. This is obviously, it's gonna go on farther and hopefully be a lot tighter in here, but oh yeah, this is interesting. It feels, I don't know if you can, I didn't show you guys what the throw looked like before, but this is much, much shorter. So I'm really happy with that. Let's get everything else reinstalled. So we have that other boot that we have to reinstall. So we're basically done installing the shifter more or less. We got to actually reattach the knob at the very end and make sure that that crush washer is nice and tight. I'm gonna get this boot back on, then we're gonna line that crush washer up real quick because it got a little misaligned when I tried to screw the stick on there. And then we'll reinstall the whole interior, so I'll be right back. All right, guys, so I ended up modifying this shift boot kind of the same way that I modified the shift boot that's underneath this, which is that the innermost ring, I just cut it out because this shifter has this really thick sort of like block on it that it was very difficult to get the boot over that, and I didn't want to just have like this stretched out boot kind of flapping all over the place, so I just kind of cut that inner ring out, and I think it looks really clean now. and I'm going to begin reinstallation now. So at the end, the way I'm going to time lapse the reinstallation, at the end we're going to have the shift boot, right, that is part of the center console over here, and then we're going to actually go and put the shift knob on. Now when we put the shift knob on, the shift knob itself has a little it has a little hole that goes right in here, and this is where your T20 torque screw will thread in. Now this is MGW shifter that works with the factory shift knob for this car, so I will be able to just slide my factory shift knob back on and bolt it right to this. What's kind of nice is there's a hole on each side, so you know, it makes it a little bit easier to align. But anyway, I might have to rotate this crush washer a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is I'll put the shift knob on, I will thread the screw in, and then I can actually hold the knob while I tighten this lock nut the rest of the way, because right now it still has some play in it when I'm using my spanner wrench, and I don't want, while I'm driving, I don't want the stick to be able to twist at all. So I'm gonna just lock that in real quick, then I'll remove the knob and I'll begin the entire reinstallation process. So enjoy this time lapse, and I will be back with the finished product. Alright guys, there you have it. It is installed. I was able to get this aligned properly, so anyway, to show you what the throw looks like. 5th, 6th, 7th. It feels like when you go to 7th, you really feel it click. Like that's just going over, I didn't even go up. So this is just, it's way tighter than the factory one. I really like it. I'm really happy with it. I feel like the stick itself sits down a little bit. Not that that means anything, but it does sit down a little bit more, which actually is a little bit more comfortable, because especially with the seats in these cars, your arms kind of already up quite a bit, so to have the stick down a little bit and kind of, you know, rest on your center console a little more, it's really nice. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's totally worth it. Very, very good upgrade. All right guys, well, that's it for today. I'm really happy with how this installation turned out, and as usual, I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.